Well, hello everyone. Welcome to another Voice Essentials live hangout. My name is Dr. Dan. I hope you're going to be able to stick around for the next, well, tends to be about 30 minutes, 40 minutes or so. We're going to have a good time answering your questions today. And I just want to let you know, I've got some construction happening around about 2 doors down in the street below me. I'm up sort of on a hill up here, and if you can hear a rat-a-tat-tat-tat-tat-tat, I apologise. They are excavating. They have been excavating for the last, I don't know, what seems like forever, but I think it's only been a couple of weeks. They start at 7 a.m. in the morning and they don't, well, I'd hope that they'd be finished by now. It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon here in Australia on Tuesday afternoon, the 12th of September, but alas, they're still going. So they're obviously eager to I don't know, take half the hill away. So if you can hear that in the background, I apologise. We're going to work through it and hopefully it doesn't prove to be too much of a distraction. Of course, if it is too much of a distraction, I apologise. You might want to leave me a comment in the notes section. And I've actually, now the other thing too I want to tell you before we get into today's discussion is I've just upgraded my the software I use to do these live hangouts called Wirecast. I've upgraded to the latest professional level part of it, and it appears that can you see how the text here is a little bit I don't know, gravelly and whatever. I don't know that you're going to be able to read that. Perhaps if we go across to this one, it will be a bit better. It's not as good as the old version. Don't you hate that when you update a piece of software and it actually is not as good as the old version? Anyway, if you can't read it, I'll be reading it along for us, and hopefully it won't look too bad. Let me know in the notes sections below if you can read that or not. I was hoping to do a really sort of fancy version this week and kind of have it sitting there live so you could see each other's live chat as we're going to air live, but alas, I'm waiting. I've sent in a tech support ticket and I'm yet to receive a how can I be a dynamic singer? Gavin, we're going to come back to you in a moment. We're going to be getting to your questions a little bit well, very, very soon. And let me just get myself together here. We are going to be answering your questions a little bit later in the live hangout, as Gavin has already started to ask the questions. Gavin's a regular here. Welcome back, Gavin. We'll talk and discuss your questions, but today we're going to talk about this idea of, can everyone sing? Is everyone born to sing? Is it talent? Is it skill? We're going to talk about that in a little bit of depth. We'll come right back to it straight after this.
Sound check. Check 1, check 2.
So, can everyone sing? The answer to that, and this won't surprise many of you to hear me say, yes, everyone can sing. And before we get in, can I just say hello to all of our regular people here? It's good to see Birgit back. Nice to see you hanging out with us. Gavin's a regular. Linda is one of my private students. Good to see you jump on, Linda. And Rajesh. There's a whole range of you. If I've missed your name, I apologise. I'm just looking over at your names here. I wonder if we go over to here, if that's a better... Oh, hang on a second. Get rid of that. And get rid of that. Blocking me out there. So it's good to see you all jumping in. Don't forget to let us know where you're from. Don't forget to let us know what the weather is like in your part of the world. We are getting warmer by the day here in Australia. And we've been told to expect a very hot, dry summer season from spring into summer, and it's already commenced. It's sitting at around about 30 degrees already, and we're less than 2 weeks into spring, so it's a little bit scary as to the sort of weather we should be anticipating. Let us know where you are. For those of you who are in the southern states, the southern-eastern states of America, I hope you're safe from all of those the hurricanes, etc. And for those of, I think it's India, correct me if I'm wrong, for those of you who are in India, if I think, or was it Indonesia? I forget which country it was that had some really significant flooding. I hope you're safe. Wherever you are, I hope you're safe. I hope you've got a roof over your head, and I would dare say if you're logging on to YouTube, you do. So anyway, let us know where you're from. Let us know what the temperature is like. And as always, be kind to one another in the chat section. And ask your questions so that we can live chat and interact and answer your questions. So back to Karina Chen. I am Karina. Hi Coach, I'm from Hong Kong. Nice to see you today. It's 33 Celsius. Good to have you join us from Hong Kong. I've had a student or two from Hong Kong, so it's good to have you join us. So, can everyone sing? I'm not going to labour this point because it wouldn't surprise you to hear me say, yes, everyone can sing. And the challenge is that we also have to account for our anatomy. So I've spoken to this before. You know, I'm 5'8"-ish, 175 centimetres. Now, if I wanted to be a basketballer, I would be, my height would challenge me in that game. But professional basketball is typically a game played by those who are at least 6 foot and higher. However, there have been a number, they're the minority, but there have been a number of basketballers who have been even shorter than me, down to 5'2", 5'3", and they haven't allowed their anatomy to completely, you know, undo their desire to play basketball. And that's an important point, you know, as we do this singing thing. Many of you have been born with an anatomy that you might deem doesn't give you the, you know, maybe you haven't been born with the anatomy of a Michael Bublé or a Beyonce, or you name your favourite singer. You know, the reality is in life that some people are born with anatomies and have upbringings that naturally lead them to wanting to sing, in the sense that they just have a natural inclination to it. They're the people that we tend to group as talented singers. What we've done, certainly in Western society, is unfortunately we've then said that, well, they're the only people that should sing. And that's where I go, I don't agree with that. I believe it is the human birthright of every human being to sing. Who wants to? You know, not everyone wants to sing. For example, dance is not my thing to do. I have to drag my wife off the dance floor at weddings, at the reception, because she loves to dance. She'll be up there all night if I don't, you know, grab her and take her home. You've actually got to drag me onto the dance floor. Dance is not something, a way that I want to express myself. But for you and for me, singing is the way we want to express ourselves. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that we are gifted. It doesn't necessarily mean that we have an anatomy that lends itself naturally to being excellent singers. But this is where it's really important for you to understand anatomy / talent is not the be-all and end-all to becoming a successful singer, let alone a professional singer. Excuse me, I've still got this cough that I've had for the last few weeks, and now with that excavation going, we've got dust everywhere, and so excuse me for coughing as we go. So it's really important that you understand the key ingredient to becoming a successful singer, whether it be at the amateur level or professional level, is not talent. It's not anatomy. It is determination, passion, drive, a dogged willingness to want to express yourself through voice. I know and have had the pleasure of teaching many fine singers who, when they've first stepped into my studio, have not been what I would regard, what you would regard as naturally, anatomically driven singers. They're not people who you immediately go, wow, where did that voice come from? But they are people who have a desire and a passion and a drive to develop their singing and to use their singing in a number of ways. Now, I've got one particular fellow who's been with me for a number of years, stepped in here having never done a recording and what have you before, is currently in the preparation of recording his third album and is about to tour it throughout Australia. Now, when he first stepped into my studio, he is not a singer that we would all go, wow, that's an amazing voice. He was a guitarist, and he wanted to add singing to his songwriting. He wanted to be able to sing his own songs. There's the drive, there's the passion. And so he needed someone to come alongside him. In this case, he chose myself to work with him and to see that passion and that drive become a reality where he can stand up and perform his own material. And, you know, that, to be honest with you, I would much rather, as a singing teacher, work with that person, a person who maybe is not, you know, talented, but who has this drive and passion to want to develop. Because often, not always, but often the work ethic that that person brings to the studio is just a really inspiring thing to come alongside. And those sessions are always very exciting, and there's a lot of drive and excitement around those, because this person hasn't learnt to just sit back on their talent laurels and go, oh, well, you know, I'm talented. And those singers sometimes don't go very far. They come into the studio talented and they leave the studio talent, because the reality is they're not doing a lot of work between, you know, one session to the next. They've learnt to just accept that they're, oh, okay, I'm you know, what I've got is currently ticks the boxes for audiences, so why improve? You know, it's always a great shame to me to hear people report, you know, whether they be artists, recorded artists, and go, yes, I've never had a singing lesson. Now, when I hear that, I often think to myself, what a great shame. You are robbing your audience potentially of something even greater than you've given them to date. And that's what I'd say to you if you're a performer who is talented. Don't just rest on your laurels. Seek out someone who can take you to the next level of potential that you are capable of. Don't rob your audience of the hard work. You know, put the hard work in. Become better than you are. And so I wanted to encourage and inspire many of you today who I know sometimes think to yourself, well, I'm not a talented singer, so maybe I just shouldn't do it. You were born with everything you need to sing, unless you weren't born with a larynx, and I've never met anyone like that. And if you don't have a larynx, then you are going to find it very difficult to sing. But most of us have been born with a larynx, and I would want to inspire you to keep going. Don't allow your anatomy to be the excuse that you use to give up or to stop your development. Keep workshopping and realize your full potential. Don't let your observation of others be the determining factor as to whether you do or don't keep doing this singing thing. I hope that's been inspirational today. I want to turn our attention over to answering some of your questions. We've got Gavin saying it's really cold in New Zealand right now. Gavin, it's always cold in New Zealand. Friendly jab at my friend over the ditch. Okay, so let's come down here. Isaac is from Mexico. Hey, Isaac. Mate, I hope you're okay, given that, is it Mexico that's just had the big earthquakes there? Obviously, if you're on YouTube right now, things must be okay, but I hope you're safe, and I hope your extended family's okay. Thanks for your videos. It is good practice, the vocal fry for fixing the vocal break. Vocal fray for fix the vocal break. For working on vocal registrational challenges, let me just come here. Let me just jump over to, sorry guys, I'm just making a change here. Vocal breaks, you can use a number of things to work through your registration transitions. You can use twang, and I've got a number of twang activities on the video. Sorry, on the channel. Incidentally, if this is the first time you've ever joined us here at Voice Essentials, hey, head over to the channel after our live hangout today and make sure you subscribe, hit the bell icon. We hang out like this at least once a week, and then we do a pre-record video that's sort of more considered and researched, and it's going live tomorrow. And so you can check that out. But we'd love for you to join our ever-growing community, so make sure you do that. So Gavin, you can, sorry, not Gavin, who was it that asked the question? Isaac, you can use the twang activities. There's actually a specific video on the channel that talks about registrational transitions and working through them. You can use lip bubbles. You can hear my voice moving through the transition there. Lip bubbles put the voice into a really balanced state, and it proves to be really helpful. So be sure you do that. Yeah, that'll be really helpful. As far as vocal fry for fixing the vocal break, I typically wouldn't be using vocal fry to do that. So just be mindful of that. Karina, let me go over here so I can highlight for you all the question I'm looking at. So this is Karina from Hong Kong. I love your videos. Please explain more about cord closure and its relevant exercises. I have a breathy voice due to surgery. Yeah, I guess the question to be asked of you, Karina, would be, is the breathy voice due to was it vocal fold or laryngeal surgery, or was it surgery of another area? Please don't share anything personal that you don't want to in the comments. Vocal fold closure, you may have some bruising of the vocal fold that is causing the inability of the vocal folds to come together. I'd be looking to do some straw phonation with you. And then I would rehabilitate strength back into the vocal folds. All things being equal, there's a whole range of things that we would need to assess for you personally, but I tend to use a great group of exercises by Dr. Joseph Stempel called the vocal function exercises, and they're really great for achieving a strengthening and full closure. NG activities, again, twang activities are really good for the same reason. Rajesh, immediately below Karina's question, please help me to make my diaphragm work properly. Rajesh, almost certainly your diaphragm is already working properly. And so what I would be saying to you is you need to learn to manage your diaphragm. You know, a diaphragm that's not working properly almost certainly means that you're short of breath constantly. What we need to learn to do is manage the diaphragm in a manner, remembering that the diaphragm is an automated muscle. It's part of the autonomic nervous system, and we're managing that muscular movement by virtue of intercostals, abdominals, obliques, muscle structures that interplay against and with that diaphragmatic motion. And there are certainly exercises on my CD which you can see being, you can get to the exercise CD via those links below. There's a couple of exercises there about breath management, and they'll be helpful. And of course, there are breath management activities over on the channel that you can check out. Also, my apologies with this cough again. So down here, it's good to see so many of you jumping in, asking questions. Still winter in Tassie. It will be for another couple of months, Linda, I dare say. Yeah, okay, so is it wintry everywhere except here in Brisbane? Okay. Tetashom is asking, what are some anatomical advantages someone can have? And love your vids. Hey, cheers. Some of the anatomical advantages that you can have, well, it all comes down to your anatomical structure. everyone's born with pretty much the same bits vocally, anatomically. But we are all different shapes, sizes, and dimensions. We have what's called different morphologies, which is basically the makeup of those different sizes, shapes, and dimensions. And that's what makes us individuals. Consequently, sound, the resonance of your sound, the way the sound is developed as it leaves the vocal folds and then travels through the vocal tract, the way you're able to shape the sheer anatomy that voice is traveling through, and the ability of the singer to then shape and manipulate those vocal tract shapes determines what the sound comes out as. And that's why we say, look, don't let anatomy simply be the be-all and end-all. If you don't learn to work with your anatomy, then yeah, you will just always get what you've always got, because that's what your anatomy gives you. You can learn to shape and develop and enhance the natural sounds that your body anatomically produces. And so we can't get away from the fact that anatomically you are born with a certain morphology, and your body, as it moves through puberty and into adulthood, comes to a certain shape and dimension, a certain adult morphology. And some of those morphologies will enhance voice better than others. And so that's, I guess, what we're talking about there. And sometimes those natural morphologies are advantageous to sound production. But it should never be the thing that, what's the right word? Disqualifies anybody from, from whether they're singing or not. Okay, it's 10 in the evening in Victoria, BC, Canada. Hey, good to have you join us from Canada. And I'm glad you get great vibes from my videos. DB's SWEG. I don't know, how would we say that? Anyway, I'm glad you get good vibes from the videos. Carcass, directly under here, is anxiety and depression, can that affect your singing? Look, really good question, and the answer to that is yes, it certainly can. Your general sense of well-being, emotionally, psychologically, and physically, all impact you as a singer. And I've shared this a couple of times in the last couple of weeks with a couple of private students. And when I was touring, and I started touring my first year out of high school, so a little while ago. When I started touring, one of the greatest stresses that I personally experienced as a touring singer, and then into the rest of my professional singing career, was, well, first and probably the biggest stress was I'm shocking with remembering lyrics. Remembering lyrics is the bane of my professional existence. That aside, I learnt to manage that. One of the biggest stresses I found was the physical stress of not knowing, the very fact that you are your instrument. And so, every chest infection, every throat infection, if you get the flu, if you don't get enough sleep, how I remember at one point in the band, my first year out of high school, we're touring, we're on the road for 10 months. And, when you're living in each other's pockets for that long, the band goes through different social points, and we were having a hard time in the band at one stage. And so, it became emotionally very stressful, and so, that impacts on the singer. It's something that I think instrumentalists, unless they themselves are a singer, instrumentalists often can't really understand, but we singers, we are our instrument. If you pick up one guitar one day and it doesn't feel right for whatever reason, the strings are not right, you can always pick up another guitar or you can change the strings. As a singer, you can't do that. You've got to be able to get up, and regardless if you're touring, you've got to be able to sing through. Often, the show must go on. And so I have often found that quite stressful. So you know, these emotions, the psychology, and when it comes to, you know, more serious things like depression and performance and just straight anxiety, these are big issues. And I would encourage you, if you're struggling with those sort of circumstances, please speak with someone, speak with a trusted person. If you can, seek out a professional psychologist or a family doctor, or at the very least a trusted family member or friend who you can be accountable to, who you can talk through these issues with, and learn, you know, go looking for skills to manage those areas. I'm certainly not equipped with the right expertise to counsel you beyond referring you and encouraging you to seek out those sorts of things. I hope that's helpful. We'll turn to one more thing, I think, for today. One more question, and then we'll be calling it a day. Norbu, I haven't seen you here before. Welcome. Sam Smith uses lots of breathier tones. Is it safe? Interesting question. Well, I think the reality is, let me just get us back to here. I think the reality is that unfortunately we have a suggestion when we use Sam Smith as an example. Sam Smith is a singer who has experienced some vocal challenges, and so let's be upfront about that. Whether that is from a technical challenge or not is, well, we shouldn't be, you know, there's a big move on, which I really believe in at the moment, to remove the stigma away from voice damage and voice disorder from singers, especially professional singers, because their loads are so high. And we certainly don't, you know, if we see a professional athlete succumb to an injury on field, we don't kind of, you know, there's no stigma attached to it. We don't think to themselves, oh, they were, you know, they didn't warm up correctly or whatever. It's the same with singers. However, we do know that there are voice things that we can do with our voice that will wear and tear at the voice in a greater manner than others. Breathiness, certainly habitual breathiness, is one of those things that if it's you're just singing breathy all the time, you can expect to nodules are more than likely one of the more definite risk factors for an overly habitually breathy singer. Because when you sing breathy, not only are we bringing the vocal folds together lightly, often the singer will be creating a bit of a vocal chink at the back of the vocal folds. And so because they're not getting a full closure, it interrupts the ripple wave across the line of the glottis, and it interrupts that ripple wave, and so we get a bit of a I'm trying to do this on the screen. We get a little bit of a rub at around about the front third of the vocal folds, and that will form, if it's habitual and if you're doing it more than you should, that'll form a bilateral nodule, nodules on both sides, swellings, and that can be quite problematic. I always orientate my singers to what I refer to as ambient tone, and basically it's a clean tone that has more of an ambient or an aspirated edge, a breathy edge around it. I do have a video about breathy singing that we go into on the channel. You can go and check that out, of course, and that would be very cool to do. So there you go. I hope that's we've certainly answered a number of questions today, and I'm just having a look to see. Yeah, we've been going for about 30 minutes, so I think we'll call it a day. I hope. Let me know in the comments sections whether you're able to read many of those that ongoing live chat, because as I said at the beginning of the show, my live the software that I've using updated recently, and I'm concerned about the resolution. Anyway, I hope that you can join me next week when we hopefully hang out again. My studio is closed for a week, so we'll see how we go in getting to doing a live hangout together. Of course, if this is the first time you've ever watched one of my videos, welcome. I'm glad you were able to tune in. If you want to see these live hangouts every week, then make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit the white bell icon so that YouTube will, its notification system, will let you know when I'm going live. It is the only way to find out that I'm going live, and I would love for you to join us generally on a Monday or a Tuesday, more often than not in the afternoon. I'm always fitting these sessions into a cancellation of my private students, which is exactly what happened here today. So I hope you'll be able to do that. Of course, keep an eye out for the pre-record videos. Tomorrow we are talking about allergies. Can you sing with allergies? I'm not going to answer that question. I'm going to let you watch the video tomorrow. And of course, always be sure to leave any questions and comments on those videos when they go live. And it'll be live tomorrow morning at 5 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. Until I see you in that next Voice Essentials video, I'm Dr. Dan. Sing well.